Houston. Houston, we have a problem. DJ Apollo has landed. I repeat, DJ Apollo has landed at Hitmix 88.9 WEIU.
Welcome to the Tales of Music and Film podcast, and we are on number 54. Man, that is crazy. To tell you the truth, I didn't think that you were ever going to reach this. 54 episodes. Like, I'll never forget when I first started the show. I'm just like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to hit like 30 or something, but just like, man, this has been an amazing experience, and let's keep it going. Still got 4 weeks left till I graduate, so until then, let's keep this show going. And today, well, before we go any further, my name is DJ Apollo, and thank you for tuning in for today's episode. Today, we got a good one in store for you today. We are covering a film that I just watched with my mom just a couple weeks ago. We're covering a late 90s hidden gem that I think deserves some more recognition. We're covering Urban Legend. It's a horror slasher film that has a runtime of 1 hour and 40 minutes. It was released on September 25th, 1998, almost a year before I was born. This movie was directed by Jamie Blanks, who also directed another slasher film that I want to check out. It's called Valentine, which came out in 2001 and stars Denise Richards. She is one of my biggest Hollywood crushes. And the film was actually a hit. It wasn't like the next blockbuster or anything, but the film would go on to gross $72.5 million. The film had a budget of $14 million, so it was a huge hit. And it was distributed by TriStar Pictures and Sony Pictures. Mom and me watched this together, and I'm just saying this right now. I wish that some point in my life, like, I need to start a YouTube channel and name it like Movie Night with Mom, because like we do movie nights like almost every weekend now, and it's usually been mostly slasher films. And I just like, we have so much fun watching films together. Like, I have to make that a YouTube channel or something. We have so much fun watching scary movies together. And we had a lot of fun watching Urban Legend. She actually watched it once around the time it came out, but I had never seen it before. And it was on the list of films that she wanted to watch with me, so we watched it. I gotta say, I liked it a lot. I really did. I was kind of worried going into it was going to be like a 90s cheese fest, which it kind of is, but not in a bad way. It was in a good way. And I'll get more into that momentarily, but for now, let's get into the cast list for a minute. So, the main cast for this film, we got some names here. First off, we got Jared Leto. And I gotta tell you, man, watching this film, it was really weird seeing a very young Jared Leto. Because I'm used to seeing films that he did like 5 or 6 years ago. Like, I've never really seen him like so young. Because I needed to see American Psycho that came out in 2000. I need to see that, but dude, he was young in this. And up next, we have Alyssa Witt. We have Rebecca Gayheart. And then we have Loretta Devine. And then we have horror actor icon Robert Englund. And up next, we have Michael Rosenbaum, Tara Reid, Danielle Harris, and Joshua Jackson, and that is the main cast for this film. Now, there was a lot of things that won me over for this film. One of them was the cast for this. Like Robert Englund, the legendary actor who played Freddy Krueger as a college professor. That was something, because Mom showed me the trailer for this film, and it was one of the most 90s looking trailers I've ever seen, but it was good though. And another thing that really won me over for this film was Michael Rosenbaum, who I've mentioned before. He played Lex Luthor on Smallville, which is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. He played Lex Luthor for 7 seasons, and the show ran for 10, but he left the show after season 7 because his contract was over. And that show started airing in 2001. But man, Michael was a nice addition to this film. I loved him in this. He was one of the highlights for me on this film. He was amazing. And one last thing that won me over on this was Danielle Harris. She's very known for scary films. Like, she played Jamie Lloyd in Halloween's 4 and 5. she played Annie Brackett in Rob Zombie's two Halloween remakes. So she's very well known for being in scary films. And she was a great addition to this film as well, although I wasn't really a big fan of her character in this one. Her character in this was not a nice person in any way, shape, or form. She was like one of the biggest goth characters I think I've ever seen. Like, you want to see goth? Her character was the prime definition of a goth chick. But nonetheless, it was very cool to see her in this film. And Joshua Jackson, I thought, was a nice addition to this as well. He played one of the main characters in the show Dawson's Creek that ran for from 1998 to around 2003, and there's a nice little Dawson's Creek Easter egg in this. Joshua's character and Alyssa's character, he takes her out on a date. It goes south. They're out in the woods in the car, and he tries to turn the radio on, and when he does, the Dawson's Creek theme song starts playing, and he turns it off. So I didn't realize this, but my mom did, and she told me. I was like, oh, that was a nice little reference there. And another funny thing about when we were watching this movie, for some reason, the night we were watching it, our internet was like really, really bad. So the film would lag at some points, and then when it got back to normal speed, the mouth movement of the actors was not matching what they were saying, and it was pretty funny. I think Mom had to pause it like 3 times and restart it to get the mouth movements matched up with what they were saying again, but I just thought it was pretty funny that there were several times where the mouth movement just wasn't matching to what was being said. And I am going to say this, the movie is so 90s, but it's not like a bad thing. Like, when you watch this, if I didn't know what year this came out, I would have just been like, yeah, this is a 90s film. But it's not like Hackers, though. Like, I'm telling you what, you want to see a film that's just like a 90, like, it's just a decade time capsule. Hackers is like the ultimate like 90s film you can ever see. I got it for Christmas a year or two ago, and like, man, that film is such a 90s thing. But in this case, for Urban Legend, it was 90s in the best way possible. It's just a product of its time. And the next thing that I want to get into, that I want to spend this next part talking about, is the story. I gotta say, man, the story for this film was actually very, very good. Because going into this, I wasn't exactly sure what to think. Like, the trailer made it look like it was going to be another slasher film, but there was actually, funny story, there was a good chunk of this film where I thought it was a supernatural thing, because when we see the lady who gets killed at the beginning of this, somebody is hiding in the back seat of her car with an axe, and the person kills her, and then the axe goes through the car window, and then it like dissolves away. And when that happened, I kind of figured that, okay, is this a ghost or something? But that was just an effect they used. It was a living, breathing person who was doing this. So about halfway through, that's when I realized, oh, this is a real person. I legit thought for a good chunk of this that it was a supernatural spirit was like possessing people and killing them. And I'm happy that I was wrong, because I feel like that would have been very silly. But nonetheless, the story for this is actually really, really good. Our main characters in this is Jared Leto, Alyssa Witt, and Rebecca Gayhart's characters are kind of like the main 3, I think, that we see the most in the film's runtime. Unfortunately, Michael Rosenbaum's character, whose name is Parker Riley, is more of a side character in this. But for the amount of screen time that Michael was given, he knocked it out of the ballpark in this. He was one of the highlights for me. Even though his character was kind of a jerk and very unlikable in a lot of instances, I really enjoyed his character a lot. And I thought the cast in this overall had really good chemistry. I loved the little friend group they had going. And I like how, you know, more about the story is revealed as we go through the film. And Alyssa Witt, I gotta give a good shout out to her. She was amazing in this. I think she should be on the final girl list, along with like Laurie Strode, Ellen Ripley. Like, she was amazing in this. And her character's name is Natalie. And Jared Leto's character's name is Paul. And Rebecca Gayhart's character, her name's Brenda. and Robert Englund plays a college professor, and unfortunately, he did not have a whole lot of screen time in this. I think overall he had like 2 scenes in this, 2 or 3 scenes, and that was it. So I was very disappointed because I'm like, dude, you have Robert Englund in this film, Freddy Krueger, and you're gonna not have me in the film for very long? Like, dude, he's an amazing actor. I can't believe he was in the film more. I was so disappointed because he was one of the reasons I wanted to watch this. But anyway, to go back to the story for a minute here, the way the film does an amazing job. So we've seen this a million times before. So this movie kind of follows the route of Scream, where it's like the killer is hidden in the friend group. So you're kind of wondering throughout most of the film, who is the killer? Who is it, you know? Because it's some figure who wears this coat with this thick hoodie on it that darkens the face of whoever it is, so you can't see who it is. So the whole film you're wondering, who's the killer? We see all this evidence that points it could be this person. Now, other times you think, wait, maybe it's this person instead. And you're wondering the whole time who you think it is. And a lot of people could bring out the argument with a lot of films, it might be kind of easy to figure out who's the killer. I can say with pure honesty for Urban Legend, it's not going to be who you think it is. I was wrong every single time when I thought I knew who the killer was. There was like 2 different times where I'm like, okay, I got to figure it out. Oh, I second thought, no, I don't. You know, just the film does an amazing job. Like when it's revealed who the killer is, you are genuinely going to be surprised. It's going to be the last person you think it is. And the killer's motive for why this person goes after Alyssa and her friends, it's amazing. The story is very dark in a lot of instances, and our main character, Alyssa, has a dark backstory that she has to come to terms with, you know? She's not exactly, you know, a purely good person compared to how we've seen in other female leads from the past, you know? Like, she carries a lot of weight, and the weight she carries is revealed the further you get into the film when her backstory is revealed. So yeah, film did an amazing job at hiding the villain. Very good. And I really enjoyed the ending to this too. It kind of laid things opened up for a sequel. And we did get Urban Legends Final Cut in 2000. And then we got Urban Legends Bloody Mary in 2005. But judging by what I've seen, nobody from the previous film returns for these except for Roletta Devine, and she plays a cop in Urban Legend and Urban Legends Final Cut. She's the only character that comes back for the next installment, but then Urban Legends Bloody Mary in 2005 has a completely new cast, so when you think about it, Urban Legend is a standalone film, which I'm perfectly okay with, even though the ending kind of sets things up for a sequel. Like, the movie has a very good ending. I'm not going to reveal what it is, but the final conflict is done very well. And I have to say, though, with pure honesty, that I think that this film is a real hidden gem for slasher films. I can't say it enough. There was something about the late 90s, man. The late 90s produced some of the greatest slasher films I think I've ever seen, and so many of them went under the radar and didn't get the proper love that they deserved. And I feel like for Urban Legend, like, nobody talks about it. Like, there are tons of horror like groups that I follow on Facebook, and none of them really talk. I have yet to see anyone really give this film a mention. I think Urban Legends is a very good slasher film, and I think it needs more recognition. And I want to jump back to the story for a minute. So I want to see if I can go into more detail about it. So the film does take place on a college campus with all of our main characters. And it's about a group of friends who are all going to college. Alyssa Witt's character is the main one of the bunch. And her roommate is Danielle Harris's character. And the movie opens up with her friend, Michelle, being killed. And then, you know, the news passes around the campus, and everybody's wondering, like, you know, like, what happened and who did it. And it's revealed that her death resembled a urban legend. And what the killer seems to be doing is that the killer is finding all these famous urban legends about stuff, and this character brings them to life through the victims that he or she kills. Like, one of my favorite scenes in the film, so spoiler alert, I am going to be getting into how some of the characters are killed off in this one. So you haven't seen the film yet, pause this now and go watch it. So here we go. Joshua's character is killed by, he gets hung by a tree. And what happens is he goes outside of the car to go take a restroom break, and when he's off in one of the bushes, the killer sneaks up from behind him and gets a rope around his neck. And the part that kind of confused me is like, how did the killer manage to get him on top of the car without Alyssa Witt noticing? But anyway, he's hanging from the tree and he's gently tapping the ceiling of the car. It's the only thing that's stopping him from being hanged. And then the killer attacks Alyssa. She turns the car on and puts into, to drive, not knowing that Joshua is hanging from a tree, and she drives away and he hangs from the tree. And apparently that is an urban legend. Now, I don't know all these urban legends that the film goes into. You would have to look at the list for yourself, but after this happens, Alyssa goes to the college library with her friend, and they manage to find a book that goes into detail about all these urban legends. And Alyssa Witt's character finds a picture of the exact urban legend that she just witnessed. And then later on in the film, Alyssa Witt's roommate is killed, and what happens is that, so every night when Alyssa Witt's character walks back into her dorm room, Danielle Harris's character is always in bed with some other guy, and they are sealing the deal, if you will. So she just, ignores them, lets them do, quote, their thing, and then she just gets on her bed and listens to music the rest of the night. Before she gets back to the dorm room, Danielle's character is attacked, and the killer has her on her bed, choking the life out of her. And then Alyssa Witt just walks into their dorm room and thinks that, they're doing the thing. So she just walks in, puts her stuff down, lays on the bed, puts the headphones in, listening to her tape recorder, not knowing her friend is literally being choked to death. Then she wakes up in the morning and finds her friend's body with blood everywhere over the bed. Then her death is labeled as a suicide, and Alyssa doesn't believe this for 1 minute. So she teams up with Jared Leto's character, who is a newspaper worker. Jared Leto's character works for the college newspaper. He's been covering the students who have been killed, trying to figure out what's the theme with all this? Like, why is the person going after these people, and why are they being killed the way they are? So they team up to figure out what's happening. And then later on in the film, Michael Rosenbaum's character is killed off, and his death was kind of weird. So what happens is, so apparently he owns a dog that he brings to this giant college party that's going on. It's a small white dog with white fur, and he's like a mascot to him or something. I'm not sure what it was, but it's his dog, brings it with him to the party, and he parties for a while. Jared Leto and Alyssa's characters walk in trying to warn everybody that the killer is on the campus, because this is right after another character is killed off, which I'll get into here in a minute. But Michael Rosenbaum's character is really drunk at this point, and this is the scene I disliked him the most. He really humiliates his friend in front of everybody in the party, saying that the idea of an urban legend killer is a bunch of bogus. Why don't you get out of here? So they just leave. Michael's character gets back to partying, and then a little later on, he gets a phone call, which I thought was kind of funny. When I was watching this with Mom, I just wanted to be like, "Hello, Sydney. What is your favorite scary movie?" It's like, okay, come on, the jokes write themselves. But anyway, he gets a call from the killer, and apparently there is an urban legend about stuffing an animal in a microwave or something, because the killer's like, "You might want to check your microwave." So Michael Rosenbaum opens the microwave, and his dog is inside of it, dead, and there's pieces of him everywhere. I'm assuming the killer stuffed the dog in the microwave and turned the microwave on to the highest it can go and it blew him up or something. I have no idea. This is the part of the film that was like really out there for me. I'm just like, well, things just went from 0 to 100 pretty darn quick. And he goes upstairs to throw up, and then the killer is waiting for him, and then the killer strangles him and then dumps like chlorine substance down his throat and poisons him and kills him. His death was very fast and just completely out of nowhere, you know, but it was it was a crazy death to say the least. And I just want to say that I think Michael Rosenbaum did an amazing job in this film. I personally think he's an underrated actor. I thought he was a nice addition to this film. He did an amazing job. And the next thing I want to get into for a minute is that there's this was the weird thing about the film that I'm just like, well, this didn't age well, in my personal opinion, is that apparently the college has a radio station on campus that is run by Joshua Thomas's character, Tara Reid. And not long after the first girl is killed off in her car, it cuts to the college campus, to the radio station building, and it's her hosting the show, and apparently it's like a sex talk show where it's like women call in and they talk about their sex experiences. And like, dude, I was uncomfortable the whole time that we saw that, because I'm just like, it's cringy at full power. It was cringe central, and I'm just like, is this a thing? Was this seriously a thing? Because I'm just like, girl, what are you doing? It's just, oh my gosh. It was just so gross, man. I don't know who would listen to that, but there is no way. If I was alive back then, there is no way I'd listen to that. Heck no. But I just found that part to be very weird. And to go back, the host is killed off later on in the film. She gets chased around in her studio, and what was really scary about her kill was that the giant party that Michael Rosenbaum's character was at, they had giant speakers set up, tuned into that radio station during one of its broadcasts, and the host was there doing her normal rounds, and then she gets attacked by the killer, and she left her headset on, so the whole time she's being chased, you can hear her screaming and running through the amps, and she gets killed in the studio. She gets axed by the killer, and then Jared Leto and Alyssa witnessed the whole thing happen, and they couldn't save her in time. So I thought that was a very, creative way, to kill her character off. It was very terrifying. Everybody at the party, they're hearing the whole thing unfold, not knowing like what's going on. And so to jump into locations for a minute, I loved the locations where they shot the film. I loved the college campus. The locations that they picked the film at, I thought were very, very nice. One of my favorite sets would have to have been inside the library where Alyssa's character is finding the book on the urban legends. And I like the way the camera follows her as she's walking through the library or by herself. It made me reminiscent about the scene in the first Ghostbusters where Ray, Egon, and Peter are walking through the library for the first time. I love the way that it was shot. And then we have a little jump scare where her friend Brenda walks into her, and then they look over the book together. I thought that was a nice little scene too, and I love the house where they had the giant party at. It kind of reminded me of the party scene from the original Scream film. There were a lot of scenes in this that made me think of Scream, and it makes me wonder if this film took any inspiration, because it's like what I said earlier when I covered I Know What You Did Last Summer. Scream brought the slasher franchise back to life, and I'm telling you, I think in the late 90s, I think a lot of the films, like I Know What You Did Last Summer, I think they took a lot of inspiration from the original Scream. But yeah, the film has tons of amazing, iconic locations, and another scene in this that I really loved location-wise is when Jared Leto and Alyssa's characters had to break into Robert Englund's character's office, because they have a suspicion that he may be the killer, and they find some evidence that make them think it may be him, but it turns out it was not him. But that whole scene was very cool, and I loved the design of Robert Englund's office. It was very, very cool. And the other thing that I really enjoyed about this film, especially, was the filter or the cinematography, like the way the colors really go out. Because like, especially during like the daytime scenes, I like the way it's like, dude, the colors really pop out in a lot of the daytime scenes. And when you watch them, it's like there's like maybe an extra bit of light to the scene, but man, the colors in this are just like, oh, it's perfection. Every shot in this film feels like it could be its own little like painting. And the nighttime shots I thought looked really good too. The nighttime shots look like there could be a little bit of blue filter going on there. Now, I'm not saying they may have done that, but that's kind of what it looks like to me. I like the way it was, I like the colors they used for it. And another thing I really liked about this are the couple of scenes that take place when it's raining, like the opening scene when Natalie's friend. So I want to clarify something real quick. Alyssa is the actress's name. The character, she's the main character in this. Her character's name is Natalie. So I'm gonna call her Natalie from this point forward. So Alyssa's character, Natalie, her friend Michelle is killed at the beginning of the film, and she's driving her car at night, and it's pouring down rain. That whole sequence I thought was very pretty. Like, it's been a long time since rain looked like that good, because the way the filter looked, it had maybe a little bit of gray and blue going. So I'm wondering if they like brought down the ISO a little bit, or they brought down the color temperature to give it more of a blue look. Because, dude, the rain really popped out during that whole sequence. Very, very nice. Now, I want to jump back into the story for a while, and here's where we're going to be getting into more big spoilers with the film. So, the character for this film is Rebecca Gayhart's character, Brenda. She is the one who has been killing all the students, and her reason for this, her motive, is because of what I was saying earlier about Alyssa's character, Natalie, her backstory, and the weight she carries. So you find out that Natalie and her friend Michelle were out driving one night, and they flashed, and Michelle thought it was a good idea to flash she turned her headlights off, waited till the next car drove past them, and she flashed her headlights at the person driving. And when she did this, the guy that was driving the car got blinded for a few seconds, and he crashed his car and died on impact, and he was killed. And it was Brenda's boyfriend that was killed. And Alyssa tells her about, and what's funny is Alyssa straight up tells Brenda the whole thing, not knowing that the guy that Natalie's friend Michelle killed was Brenda's boyfriend. So Brenda goes after Alyssa and Alyssa's character Natalie and her friends, as payback and saved Natalie for last. And the way it's revealed is so cool, because Natalie goes back to Brenda saying, like, I don't know who the killer is, like, oh, my friends are being killed, I don't know who it is. And then Brenda knocks her out, and then when Natalie wakes up, she's strapped to a bed with tape on her mouth, and Brenda reveals herself to her, and that's when she reveals to Natalie why she's been going after her this whole time. And dude, the reveal was just like, dude, my mind was completely blown. I never would have thought in a million years that it was Brenda, because just the film did such an amazing job of hiding the identity of who the killer was. When it was revealed, I was just like, she was the last person I ever would have thought, ever. So yeah, the reveal I thought was amazing, and the motive I thought was very strong. She wants to kill Alyssa, or Alyssa's character Natalie, because she thinks that Natalie was responsible for killing her boyfriend. That's why she killed Michelle back at the beginning. Because she wanted to kill Michelle and Natalie for what they did to her and all the grief she had to go through and everything. And so I thought that was a nice motive for the killer. And the way Natalie opens up about her backstory and what she had to deal with, and how she felt so guilty because she felt responsible in a way for for Brenda's boyfriend being killed. But man, that reveal was crazy to say the least. I never would have seen that coming. It was amazing. And that was the last big part about the film that I really enjoyed. And the movie ends with Jared Leto's character, Paul Gardner is his full name. Him and Natalie are driving back thinking that, they've won and it's over. Because what happens is they have a final battle inside one of the abandoned buildings on campus, and they think that they killed Brenda. She falls out a window, but we don't see her die, so it's like, obviously, horror film rules, she's still alive. And they're driving back, and Brenda somehow managed to climb into the back seat of Paul's car before they left. They're driving away thinking that they've won, and then Brenda out of nowhere just pops up with an axe and swings it, and then after a little bit, Paul drives his car right into the side of a bridge, and then Brenda goes flying through the windshield and falls into the river. And then Paul and Natalie watch as her body floats away thinking that she's dead. Then they just hug on the bridge while the camera slowly pans away. And then we cut to the next scene. Brenda is still alive. She's with another group of college students on campus, and they're talking about everything that just happened. About, man, did you hear about that killer who is bringing urban legends to life and going after all those students, And then Brenda, these students don't know that Brenda is the killer, and she's like, well, yeah, but you got one part wrong, and then it ends right there. So the ending was good and all, but it did leave me very confused. Because the whole time I'm just learning, okay, how did she survive that, number one? Are Paul and Natalie still okay? I'm assuming they are. Like, how is Brenda going to school right now? Because Paul and Natalie know that she's the killer. So how is she back on campus living day to day without anyone knowing? That was the one thing about the ending that really confused me. But nevertheless, I thought it was very open-ended, like I said. But I thought overall the ending was pretty good. Now, I enjoyed this film a lot, but there are a lot of scenes in this that are extremely over the top, and there are some things that were done in this film that I think could have been done a lot better. We have a classroom scene that takes place around like the 15-20 minute mark in the film, and Michael Rosenbaum's character makes a smart mouth remark to Robert Englund's character, who is, again, a college professor, because all of our characters are in a college class right now, being taught something about literature or like folklore or something. And then Robert Englund's character decides this idea of like having like this candy and taking this soda, and he's like, I dare one of you students to walk up here and take both of these at the same time. Then Joshua Jackson's character decides to go up on the stage in front of everybody to do the test. Then he eats the candy, drinks the soda. A little bit later, he starts puking out the candy. It's all like green now, and he falls over. He looks like he's choking to death, and everybody's just sitting there freaking out. And they're like, and Michael Rosenbaum's character is like, someone call an ambulance. Robert Englund's character, he's literally just standing there. It's kind of like, whatever. And then Joshua stops acting like he's choking out. Then he just gets up and starts smiling like the whole thing was a gag. And I'm just like, okay, if that happened today, he would have been like expelled from campus, and Robert Englund's character would have been fired of being a teacher. Do you realize like how traumatizing? You made all those students think for a good few minutes there that a student was choking to death right in front of them. And like, what was the point? What was the lesson that was to be taught there? Like what were you trying to teach them? That choices may sometimes might not have the best outcomes, maybe? I have no idea. I don't know what lesson he was trying to teach there, but that scene just didn't make any sense to me whatsoever, and it was really, really, like, out there for the film, but I can look past it. But that whole thing was just extremely crazy to me. And another complaint I had with this film is that I think some of the other characters deserved more screen time. Like, kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, this film had a great cast. The problem is, I think the film had a hard time trying to, like, balance out the runtime. because Paul and Natalie get the most screen time because they're the main duo of the film. But like, I really wish that Michael Rosenbaum's character could have gotten more screen time because he was such a good character, and I feel like he wasn't used enough for this. His character was a nice addition to the film, and I wish we could have gotten to see more of his performance. And another thing, like Rebecca Gayhart's character, I really wish we could have gotten to see her more, to see her like as a character, because we get to see her a lot, but I feel like she could have gotten more screen time. And Roletta Devine's character, she plays a police officer in this, and we see her like not a lot. She's barely in the film, and I just kind of wonder what was the point of her character. She has like 2 or 3 scenes in this, and like she does nothing the entire runtime. Her character is actually pretty darn useless. Like at the end of the film, when Alyssa's captured, she comes busting through the door with her gun out, and then she gets defeated by Brenda pretty darn quick. She gets injured pretty badly. Like, she tries to help, but she doesn't really do much in this, and she wasn't really helpful in any way, shape, or form. I wish her character could have gotten more screen time, so we could have gotten to know her better. She kind of just felt like a throwaway character to me, but... And the other thing is, like, even though Paul had a lot of screen time in this, I feel like we could have gotten to learn more about him. I feel like his character was a little stale. I think we could have learned more about him as a character because like the film doesn't go in more into like who he is and what he wants to do. Like we know he wants to work for newspapers and write stories and everything, but I feel like he felt really stale. And I think that we could have learned maybe just a little bit more about him. But he was an okay character, but I feel like he could have been written a lot better. And that's just another complaint that I really had. I feel like that more characters could have gotten the spotlight some more. But I think the best character in this film was Natalie. The way she was written and how she really cared for her friends and tried to do the right thing and came out victorious at the end of it. She was a very good character. I thought she was well written, and she's out there for me on final female leads in horror films. So I enjoyed her character a lot. And one more side character that we barely saw was John Neville. He plays the dean of the college. Dean Adams is his name. He had a few scenes in this film, like there's a scene where after Natalie and Paul break into their college professor's office thinking that he might be the killer, they get caught by him, and they have a meeting with the dean, and he fires Paul from his writing job, and then Alyssa gets in trouble too, and we see him a few other times here on the film about his reactions to how some of the students are being killed off, and then I guess the big scene for him is when he's killed off. He's getting in his car and he gets attacked by the killer, and when this whole scene was happening, my mom actually pointed out something to me that I didn't even notice. When Dean Adams is being attacked by the killer at his car, the killer slices his ankle at a certain part, and the killer hit a nerve on his ankle, so now he can't stand on that foot, so he can't run away. I didn't notice that. I had no idea that that was even a thing, but he tries to crawl away, and man, his death scene in this is horrific. When he was killed, Mom and I were just like, whoa, like that was crazy. He tries to crawl away, and the killer grabs him and drops him on top of these sharp spikes. At the college campus, they have this spike wall set up to stop people from speeding, because, if you try to drive your car over it, it's going to pop the tires. So the killer drops him on top of those, and the spikes go right through his chest and through his neck. And just like, dude, his death was horrific. But I think he could have gotten more screen time as well. He was a good character, but that's really the only complaints he really has. Just like, I think more stuff could have been explored, and I think the spotlight could have been shared a little bit more on some of the characters. But I loved this movie to death. I think it's a fantastic slasher film that is very underappreciated, and I think it deserves way more love than what it's gotten. So I highly recommend that you check this movie out. So that is going to really wrap it up for my covering of Urban Legend. I had a great time getting to watch this with Mom. It's a fantastic slasher film, and it's a great watch. It really is. Now, as far as announcements go, I'm not sure what I'm going to be covering next. I know that I did take kind of a hiatus from covering albums. I am planning on hopefully covering some music very soon. I'm not sure yet what I'll cover, but I do have a backup list of possible albums to review. So I got 4 weeks left till I graduate, and I've mentioned this in another recording, but my goal is to hit 60 episodes before I graduate from Eastern Illinois University. Now, I'm not going to end the show altogether. I am going to continue it at some point in my life, but for now, when I hit that 60 episode mark, I will be taking a hiatus for a little bit. But after this, we got 6 more recordings to go, so let's keep it going. So, until next time, my name is DJ Apollo, and you are listening to the Tales of Music and Film.